welcome to another edition of RCE. Again, this is Brock Palen. You can find us online at rce-cast.com. You can find us links to the Twitters, the blogs, and all the back feeds there of all the old shows. Also, feel free to head over to iTunes, leave a comment there, rate us, give us some feedback. You can also find a contact form on the website. Again, I have Jeff Squyres of Cisco Systems and one of the authors of OpenMPI. Jeff, thanks again for your time.
Hey, Brock, this is pretty cool. So, today we are talking to some people from my alma mater. We're actually doing kind of a throwback to an RCE cast almost exactly 2 years ago on Hub Zero and the Nano Hub out of Purdue. Although today we're looking at it from kind of a different perspective, because in that episode we talked a lot about infrastructure, although there's somewhat of their individual usage as well. But today we're going to be talking to some people out of the University of Notre Dame, where I went to school, and what they do with a Hub Zero and a large international collaboration with it. So our guests, I wonder if you could introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name is Jason Dzurisin, and I'm a research program manager here at Notre Dame in the Department of Biological Sciences. And my interest and background is in vulnerability of natural systems to global change. And my passion is sort of looking at developing knowledge, tools, strategies for aiding in wildlife and natural systems conservation efforts. And at the moment, I am the program manager for the Collaboratory for Adaptation to Climate Change.
And hi, Brock and Jeff. I'm Jessica Hellmann. I'm a professor here at the University of Notre Dame, also in biology. Get the great pleasure of talking to some biologists today about computing and research computing. And I'm an ecologist by training. My area of expertise is in the impacts of climate change and what we should do about those impacts. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today in the Collaboratory for Adaptation to Climate Change, and how we can help minimize the effects that climate change is going to bring to all kinds of systems, human systems and ecosystems both.
Okay, so can you exactly define what you mean by collaboratory?
Sure. A collaboratory is a word that I think it actually is officially defined by the NSF, or is an NSF word by origin. It means laboratory online, or a co-laboratory. So it's a place where people come together and do work. So it's an online community, a virtual community, a space where where interactions can take place and work can get done, just like a real laboratory. You would go into a lab and you would see your colleagues and you would chat about some methodology, or you might run an experiment. You would keep your results there, your data would be posted there, and you would get your research work done. So for us, we're organizing our collaboratory or a virtual community around a particular topic that is desperately in need of this sort of rapid innovation that could be inspired by an online community. And so we're deploying these distributed computing and cyber infrastructure toward the development of this particular topic.
So how did this get started? But, kind of both as a general idea, the idea of working virtually with your colleagues across the globe in a shared virtual space, and also specifically at Notre Dame, how did the project get started?
Well, there are a number of us who work on this topic of what is climate change doing to human and natural ecosystems, and what the heck is that going to mean for us in terms of dealing with those consequences? What is the stuff that we should be doing? And it's really interesting if you talk to ecologists and you say, all right, well, okay, ecologists, what do you think how should we be managing ecosystems differently than we are now? We don't know the answers. And if you ask economists, how should we be managing economic systems differently? Or you ask public health people, how should we be handling the public health implications of climate change and be making adjustments accordingly? There's this big sense that we need to be making those adjustments, but no one really knows specifically what to do. There aren't any best practices. There aren't any sort of core principles about which strategies are more effective than others. But at the same time, the science is telling us that climate change, pretty profound climate change is right around the corner. We're already starting to see some consequences. So we need to be implementing these strategies in the here and now. So we need the answers and we don't have them. So we could ask individual laboratories, and we are asking individual laboratories all around the world to go work on this problem. And sometimes the pace of that research is something like, okay, come back in 50 years and tell us what you found. But we need something much more rapid than that. We need a solution that's developed in one place to be readily implemented in another place. We need information to be shared, and we need to mobilize data and tools much more quickly. And so that's what, in theory, an online community can facilitate. It can span that geography. So we were working on those issues here at Notre Dame from a traditional laboratory sense, but in a really interdisciplinary way, with political scientists and lawyers and computer scientists and ecologists. And that's when we realized that if we were doing this locally, interacting in an interdisciplinary way on this issue, why couldn't we facilitate that sort of globally or in an online space that wasn't just limited to one campus, but lots of people could participate in? So we went to the NSF and we asked them if they liked this idea, and they did. And so they gave us some money to establish our own collaboratory. And it's not just to establish the collaboratory and to make it run, but also to study what this virtual community is all about. So I think we're still learning about how virtual communities function and what roles they can play. And our project is equally about that as it is its particular topic.
Okay, so you covered a lot of things there, but I'm curious, is this like a more traditional research project and most of the users are graduate students and maybe they're PIs? Or do you actually maybe have policymakers, businesses that would possibly be affected by these policy decisions or anything like that kind of involved also?
Right, so I'll field that. I'll start by throwing some data at you, some analytics data that we have. So just from a numbers standpoint, we have 12,000 unique visitors from over 130 countries, and those folks have come together to form 58 groups on our site, 37 of which are public, 13 have some protected content, and 8 are completely private. And so who makes up these sorts of this user base? And it's spread across the gamut or the spectrum of who might be interested in the topic, which is very interdisciplinary. So we do have traditional academic PIs, postdocs, and graduate students that come both to consume and leave content on the site, as well as to get some of their work done using our tools. But we also have a large group of folks who are forming working groups across agencies, federal employees from the Fish and Wildlife Service, from NOAA, USGS, people who are interested in land management like the BLM and state fish and wildlife agencies, and then also city government employees like from the city of Chicago, and also tribal folks that are trying to unite information across the Native American communities. They've formed something called the Tribal Climate Forum on the site, and also, as you mentioned, industry professionals that are interested in the corporate aspect of adaptation to climate change.
Yeah, I would say we have obviously we have a lot of academics as an NSF project, but equally, and perhaps more important, we have a lot of government and non-governmental people who are actually responsible for implementing a lot of these adaptation ideas. So it's a place, in theory, it's a place where both the researchers and the practitioners can be interacting with one another, which is another thing you can do in an online space that's difficult to do in real physical space, in a collaboratory that you can do that would be hard to do in a real laboratory.
So how have you actually kind of divided things up? It sounds like there's a number of subgroups, people with different interests, and of course they need to communicate across. But how kind of are you juggling that?
So in general, these things are sort of organic. They come together. We provide a platform and a seed for these people to come together and join groups and consume resources and use our tools. We do have some partnerships, strategic partnerships with folks at the Nature Conservancy, other sort of regional partnerships with folks in the Great Lakes, folks at NOAA. But in general, these folks just find us and find the site, and they bring their own agenda to the site and organize around that.
Yeah, and we have a number of resources, a number of tools, sort of goodies why people might want to come to the site. In addition to the platform that facilitates interaction and group formation and things like this, there are some models that are useful in this domain space and other tools and resources that might attract a person initially.
Now, do you provide this service for free, or is there some kind of membership, or is there a certain level